This is the cover to your high pressure oil pump on the 60 liter engine. And what happened to me, I'll show you. Somebody decided to put gray silicone on the bottom of this thing, man, and it made it way too stuck on there. And it was like seized on there, and in the middle of getting it off, it broke on me. So I ordered one off eBay. It was like $38, but it took forever to get here. And so we ended up doing the oil cooler on it, and we re-welded the EGR cooler here for the customer because this was empty. He already had this one done here, but coast on. You gotta have both sides welded, or it's not gonna work right, you know. So, anyways, I went ahead and put a plug in there and welded it for him. So right now what we're gonna do is we're gonna reseal this. I got a new gasket kit for it. We're gonna put a new gasket kit on it. This guy had a huge oil leak is while we're here, and everything looked like it was leaking. The oil cooler looked like it was leaking. The back cover looked like it was leaking. It just had oil just coming from every which way. So we cleaned everything up real good, and we're gonna go ahead and install this cover, and I'll show y'all how to do the intake and everything from this point on. I did do a video on this oil cooler. If you go back on my history, how to rebuild this oil cooler, and I think I have a few more videos on 6.0s. So this one we're going to be installing the cover, the intake, all this top area of the engine. We also got a brand new injector harness. You can get these on eBay or on Amazon for like next to nothing, and his was in horrible condition. Just like I said, everything in the middle of this motor was horrible. Also, I had a huge exhaust leak. So you see how black this is. You really can't see it unless you're in person, but like nothing but exhaust fumes all over this wiring harness. I wish I could do the engine harness, but that's a little expensive, and this truck is kind of old. So see this back pipe here, we replaced it. It was leaking very bad. I'll show you the old one. Back and forth. Here's the old one right here. It come apart completely, and it was just dumping black smoke all through the back of that engine on that firewall. Losing power, had no turbo power whatsoever. So we're going to try and change that, and we're going to put that. We already got that installed. That pipe right there is one of the funnest jobs on this truck. I call it fun. It's one of the hardest jobs on this truck, but in any case, we got it in. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on getting this cooler in there, or this cover in there. We're going to put our new gasket in right here, and yeah, we'll go from there. You should have 3, 6. You should have 8 bolts that hold this cover down. So they're 8mm heads. So when I start back up, we'll have it installed, and we'll have all the bolts tight, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, what I'm trying to do is give you the best information I can give you. So you need to clean this whole area up around here that cover's going to be sitting on. Clean the best you can. Then you're going to put silicone right here on the edge here, in between where this cover goes and this engine block is. You're going to put a little plump of silicone there, and one right directly across on the other side. Not all over the place, just right there and right there. That's it. Some people try and do it all over the place, and it ends up causing a worse leak. So that's what you do on that end of it. And then let me show you, very important on this end of it. You see your gasket here, your new gasket? You want this new gasket to sit in there perfect. So you go fully around it and make sure it's all the way down in the grooves, because that will cause you problems too if you don't do that. So you want to make sure it's flush all the way around. That's some of the best information I can give you. Then right here where it goes down over the pump, you want to put you some STP, we call it Slickum, but it's STP oil treatment. You'll put a little dab of it all the way around here, so it'll slide right over that oil pump with no problem. And that is the best way I found to install this, okay? And I've done these hundreds of times, and I've learned over the years that if you do everything like that, you won't have any problems with this cover. Alright guys, we got this installed here, and let me show you a problem I ran into. Now mind you, this is an older truck, so but when I was putting all these bolts back in, this could be another reason why we had oil leaks, is because this one right here on this corner, it coast on. It would coast maximum. Okay, this one right here, it would not tighten down. It was like stripped here. So what I did was I put the next size up in it, and it tightened down. I made sure the washers were on it. But yeah, so I just ran into this problem. You should not run into it, but if you ever do, this is what I did to fix it. It holds down now. I put my silicone, you can see it squeezing out from the side there, and also on this spot. But you don't have to put a whole bunch of silicone on it. That's where people mess up. And so yeah, so we got this nice and tight, and what we're going to do next is pull our tape off here, and I'm going to clean the surface off underneath. We put tape here so we don't have stuff falling down in our intake while we're working on it. So that's another trick that if you didn't know about, that's what we usually do to keep stuff from getting down in that intake. That's the first thing we do when we pull the intake off, is put this tape on it. So at least there's some type of protection from stuff falling down in there. So next we're gonna clean that area off real good, and we're gonna get our turbo bracket pedestal, and we're gonna install the turbo pedestal as well. But mainly right now we're just doing the intake. So we're gonna put our intake in with our new intake gaskets right here. I'll show you a little bit on this intake gaskets. I might as well show you right now. Hold on. So here's your intake gaskets. You see this this little titty right here? You got one on each side, right? There's a titty right here and a titty right here. So those titties face outward. So this would go like this. There's your titty right there, right on the outside edge. And they will always be facing towards the turbo. There's another one right here. See how it's facing right there? So when you're putting the intake in, these titties right here are going to line up with the intake sitting down. You'll see like there's a curve inside there, and it'll line up perfect. And so you want them facing outward, because if you put them any other way, it's going to throw your intake off and you'll have a whole bunch of problems. So I'll put an arrow here where that titty should be, and right there I'll put an arrow there so you see what I'm talking about. And yeah, that's what we'll do. That's how they go in. They need to be facing outward. As long as you're doing that, you'll be able to install this intake right. Okay, we're also going to put that cooler in as well, so I will show you how I do that too. Alright guys, I'm going to kind of show you a trick that I do. It may help you, it may not, it doesn't matter. I'll put a little bit of silicone on these gaskets here and put the bolts in like this, because when you put this in there and underneath the intake, you will not be able to see this, but you need to make sure that these bolts go through this gasket here when going through the intake. So you kind of want it to be, you know, somewhat still when you're going in. Also, that goes for this one too. I put silicone on it, and it's right now it's sitting to dry a little bit so it stays put, because if you miss this gasket, you'll have a big exhaust leak, and you don't want that. So we're letting it dry a little bit and before we install it. When we install it, I put the clamp that goes here on, but I do not tighten it all the way, and I will reinforce that when we got it in there and show you what I'm talking about. But you want this to kind of move around a little bit when you're installing the intake, because it needs to twist a little here and there, and it won't be able to do that if you tighten all the way down on this clamp. But you do need to clamp on so it doesn't move around. So you just leave it loose and kind of semi loose, so it's able to move when you're tightening these two bolts up here to the intake. So I'll reinsert that and show you exactly how I do it when I do it. but that allows it to everything to line up together when you're going in. Also, don't forget to put your STP on this right here so it slides in the intake with no problem. Alright guys, I'm going to quickly show you. I already showed you the EGR cooler and how I set it up for install. Also, how I set this pipe up for install when I'm doing the turbo, or going to install a turbo. I loosen the 2 bottom bolts on the bottom side, or I leave them loose so it can move. See how it's moving real easy? Because you need this right here to line up perfectly with the turbo. And if you're able to move this back and forth or a little up and down, you'll be able to get this to seal on the turbo easier. After you get the turbo installed, then you go back down there and you tighten those 2 bolts up on the bottom side of the driver's side there. But that makes the install on the turbo so much easier. And next we're gonna get our socket for the injector pressure regulator. There's a socket for this. It is right here. Looks kind of like this right here, and it fits just like so, just like that. You can get these sockets with the sensor for pretty cheap on Amazon. I recommend just go ahead and get it from that, and then if you ever need the IPR, you'll have an extra one. But it also comes with a socket. So normally I wouldn't recommend buying the IPR on Amazon, but it comes with it, so you could just put it back in your glove box or something, because these go out quite often, and if you know how to change this and you get stranded on the side of the highway, it's good to have one of these in your glove box to go ahead and pull out and put in. I would leave the tools to it in your glove box as well, so because they are known to go out at any moment. So I would do that, and that way you have a socket for your IPR. So anyway, so next we're gonna install the IPR, we're gonna install the intake and the EGR cooler, and I'll come back and kind of explain everything to y'all, how we installed it and what to look for and how to do it. Alright guys, I was gonna show you this, the reason why we do it. Now here's our intake. Our intake is installed now, and we got our 2 8s holding the EGR back to it. We got all our bolts tight and the stud ones in. You could always move these studded bolts around if you got them in the wrong spot. Not a big deal. The thing is, the reason why I was telling you to leave that clamp loose is so this would line up with this intake a lot easier. And once you got the intake down and tightened, now you'll come back here on this bolt here and you'll tighten that clamp up. Now it's loose right now. Well, it's not loose, but it's loose to where this could spin and into position as it's being brought up. So we're gonna tighten down on it, and that will be done with our EGR. So now it's tight. Now we shouldn't have no problems and no leaks there. No leaks on our intake. We got new gaskets. Shouldn't have no new leaks. I always put tape right here on top of this intake while I'm working on everything, just in case something decides they want to drop down and they won't fall into the intake there. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to put our pedestal in here. I don't know if I already mentioned it, but we got some messed up bolt holes here. So I'm going to see if I can't if the bolts still don't fit in there or if they'll tighten up. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we need that pedestal tight. So I'm gonna figure out a way to do that, and I will show you how it's installed once we get done with it and what I did. But that's how it should look right now if you're on the intake portion. And the only key to that is leaving that clamp loose but on, so when you tighten everything down, it lines everything up and this O-ring right here won't break. So we'll be back. Guys, learn my lesson. I had to learn the hard way. As you can see, we're ready to put that turbo in, and that's where I was. I just got 2 hours out of my day ate up, because when you get this Y pipe, just for future's sake, make sure you buy that Y pipe from Ford. Because I've bought them online, and I've never had the issue when I buy them online, but I did today. This is the first time I ran into an issue, and what happens is that aftermarket one, it ends up being too short to where if I do install it, it's gonna end up busting the pipe again within a month or two, because it puts way too much tension on this. Is it this one? No, this one. Puts way too much, because by the time I install it on the turbo, we got about that much room to pull down, and it's putting a lot of pressure right here, and it would end up breaking. So make sure you get the OEM Ford. Here's the part number for you at home. Here's your part number, and it's not even that much more expensive than the one online. That was my mess up, but I've never had an issue with them buying them online, but this time I did, and it ended up taking 2 hours out of my day, because there's no way I would let this truck go out of the shop the way that would have happened, because he would have been right back here 2 months later with a broken pipe. So in any case, I got the right one. I'm gonna get that in. We're gonna install this turbo next and be on our merry way. You can see I got the intake installed. I don't know if I can't remember if I already did a video on that. Just make sure all this is lined up, make sure all your bolts go in there. I think I already did that, but anyways, I still have it loose. I'm fixing to tighten up right in there on those two, and it's still going to be loose on this side until we install the turbo. So I'm fixing to tighten these two bolts up, and my clamp here, we're going to tighten my clamp down too. Get that clamp tightened. Don't leave that loose, because it'll be a whistling on you whenever you go to drive it. So in any case, but my two bottom bolts nuts that are holding this pipe in, they are loose, because I need some movement to be able to the turbo to fit easier. So yeah, leave those two loose until the very end, and then that'll be the last thing you do, is go tighten those two bolts and nuts and bolts down. It's a 10mm head, and the nut is a 13mm nut. So in any case, about to get this turbo in here, and I will be right back and let you know how it went, and let you know what you got to do to install it. All right, guys, we got this turbo installed now, nice and neat. You got your pipe here connected, band clamp is on, turbo's installed and solid as a rock. Before it was moving around, it busted that pipe out. It had oil splashing everywhere. That clamp back there on the EGR cooler is tight, if you can see it. You got 3 hold down bolts for the turbo. You got one right there, and you got one directly on the other side right there, and then you got one in the back, which is really hard to see, but I'm gonna put my camera back there and kind of shine, or you can see it right there. That one's tight. Make sure you get all 3 of those bolts tight and your pedestal tight, so there's no movement whatsoever on this turbo, because that's what breaks this pipe. It breaks because the turbo's got so much torque, it's bending it. So you need everything to be nice and tight on these, on the pedestal and on the turbo, so that don't happen. So in any case, our next step is we're going to run our wiring harness. We need to do our injector harness, get it put in, and then we need to run this harness too and get it nice and put in, because we're going to start working on our fuel lines, our oil filter housing. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done with this. But yeah, next I would do my injector line, my injector wires, the feed pipe to the turbo. We need to install that as well. So we're gonna do that right now. When I get done, I will come back and kind of go through what we put in and how we did it, and just like I did the turbo here. The turbo, you want to make sure that the drain pipe down there is nice and neat and inside there and flush. That's where your leak would be. If you cut that O-ring, which I've never cut an O-ring on that, but if you do, it's going to be a big mess. So be real careful when it slides out over that. And so yeah, we'll be back.